Record right. Recording now. And then let me take back my power.
Where do I exit? Oh my God. Exit.
Hey, Johnny, can you mute, please?
Oh yes. Trying to. I just lost the screen. Sorry. So yeah, I was trying to get back on it. I closed something out wrong, and I can't see that control button for a sec. So just bear with me. Yes.
We're 4 minutes in. Should I go ahead and get started?
All right, let's see, can you give me back control? Let me go back to.
Yeah, I'm not sharing.
See if
You
it-
still see my screen?
yeah, reclaim host, there we go. And
Okay, I got you. Okay, so you're mute. I think I got
it's not the one I wanted to show. My apologies. We did just actually test all of those. All right, can you guys see my screen appropriately? You see the presentation?
Yes.
All right. So again, my name is Erica Shamley. I am Music and Entertainment Division Manager. This is one of 2 workshops we'll have. We'll also have a couple virtual office hours. Information about all of that will be included in this presentation as it is in the Austin Live Music Fund webpage. You can get to that through atxmusic.org. Now I'm just going to hand it off to Kim to introduce the rest of the team. So Kim McCarson, Program Manager, who is overseeing our Live Music Fund process. If you could take it away, and I will do what you need me to do with the presentation.
All right, thank you, Erica. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Live Music Fund workshop presentation. Please remember to mute your mics and put your questions in the chat, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And we are recording the session, and you'll be able to see that online after today. You'll be able to access it from our website. I believe we have before I introduce the staff, I believe we have a Spanish interpreter with us today, Carla Paz. So Carla, are you here?
Good afternoon. My name is Carla, and I will be your Spanish interpreter. I will interpret everything that is said during this meeting and will keep it confidential.
So Carla, would you please inform any Spanish speakers who might be in our audience today that the guidelines are available in Spanish on the Live Music Fund website, and that we will set up a breakout room with staff and you for any questions in Spanish after the presentation.
Todas nuestras guías van a estar disponibles dentro de nuestra página de red. Nosotros vamos a dar un espacio con las personas dentro de la junta y el intérprete para cualquier pregunta después de la presentación, y también van a poder tener acceso dentro de la página de red.
Thank you, Carla. Now I'm going to introduce the rest of the staff. We have Greg Gonzalez here. Greg, can you give us a wave? Greg, you'll be seeing more of Greg. He'll be at our, hello, Greg. We'll be at our open office hours and helping answering questions. So if you attend any of those, you will see Greg again. And we also have Shelby Mitchell. Shelby, can you give us a wave? And Laura Tolan, wave at us too. So both Shelby and Laura have been just a huge help in getting the word out to everybody with our social media posts and press releases. And so thank you so much for that huge effort. The City of Austin has partnered with the Long Center for Grant Administration, and some of their team are also attending today. I'd like to introduce them. Maria Contreras, can give us a wave too, and Cecile Ibarra.
Cecile hasn't had a chance to log on, but yes, so I think I will be the only one today.
Okay. Well, Maria and Cecile Ibarra will be the ones to be answering a lot of your questions through the Lawn Center about your application. So they'll probably be the first folks that you talk to if you do have any question as we start filling out your application. So just to remind everybody that the program is open, and it was open since just May 21st. It will remain open through June 18th until 7 p.m. And if your application is received after 7 p.m. on June 18th, it will not be accepted. So please don't hit the send button at 7 because electronically it might take a little longer for it to be received. So that application must be received by 7. All right, so next slide. Thank you, Erica. Okay. So the Live Music Fund comes from the hotel occupancy taxes and is governed by state statute, city ordinance, and it came from the input from the community, stakeholders in the music industry, the Music Commission, Quality of Life Commissions, among others. And the Music Commission has also made a recommendation that added core equity principles through which the program was created. And once we post this for you all later after this presentation, you'll be able to click onto these links and read those if you like. So next slide, please. All right, the purpose of this program is to encourage, promote, improve, and showcase Austin's diverse music industry through supporting lots of activities that are marketed to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. That includes online events and live events open to the public, studio, video, merchandise production, promotional tours outside of Austin, broadcasting, and tourism marketing and promotional campaigns. So these activities that we just listed in this purpose are all the things that may be supported by the Live Music Fund. The core equity principles that we touched on just a moment ago were established by the Music Commission and are the basis for the equity training and strategic planning that awardees will be required to participate in during the course of the grant. So if you do win an award, there will be some of those things that you'll need to participate in that completes our core equity principles. And these opportunities will be provided to you by the city at no cost. And we'll talk about that a little later. Next slide, please. All right, so the Live Music Fund is open to professional musicians, independent promoters, and live music venues. The total grant budget is $4.5 million. $3.5 million is set aside for musicians and independent promoters for grants of $15,000 or $30,000. The amount is the choice of the applicant. You choose that in your application. The grant agreements are for 2 years, so awardees will have 2 years to spend the money. $1 million is set aside for live music venues for grants of $30,000 or $60,000, depending on the size of the venue's operating budget. $30,000 is for venues with an operating budget of less than $100,000, and $60,000 is for music venues with an operating budget of $100,000 or greater. The grant agreements for music venues are 1 year. Next slide, please. So the professional musician, to be considered a professional musician for purposes of this grant, you have to meet one of the 3 requirements on the slide. So you get at least 2 years of documentation showing that the applicant has regularly performed as a professional musician, solo or as part of a band, and live performances to public audiences. That doesn't have to be the last 2 years. That can be 2 years, 3 years ago, but it doesn't have to be the last 2 years. And if you just moved here from Houston, for example, 6 months ago, that experience still counts. Or 6 released recordings or 6 promotionally released music venues. But you don't have to have all 3 of these. You don't have to upload all 3 of these bullets to an application, just one of them. All right, next slide, please. All right. So professional musicians must meet all of the following requirements. So you got to live in the Austin Round Rock Metropolitan Statistical Area, which we call the MSA. So you'll hear us talk about the MSA, and perform solo or in a band. Only 1 application per solo musician or band And an applicant cannot also apply as an independent promoter. So you can either apply as a musician or as an independent promoter, but you can't apply as both. Musicians may perform in multiple bands receiving awards, but the lead applicant may only apply for one application. So in other words, a lot of musicians are involved in more than one band in Austin. And the lead person, there can only be that same name on one application, but other bands can apply and you can still be in more than one band and that money trickle down to you. Unless a promotional tour, public activities must take place in the city of Austin, council district, or ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, and include at least 51% of performers who fit the definition of a professional musician and live in the MSA. So that means 51% of your other band members need to pass the same qualifications of a professional musician according to this grant and live in the MSA. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. They will be, because the marketing plan is a part of your grant if you win an award, and it will also be part of your application. Professional musicians are compensated through grant funds, are paid at least the City of Austin pay rate as outlined in the resolution that you see here, which you can click onto once we distribute this. And that's basically, it's $200 an hour per musician. That's up to 6 people in a group, or $150 per musician between 7 to 10 people in a group, and $1,500 total for groups of 10 or more. But again, you can revisit that definition later when you click onto this link. You have to be at least 18 years old, and you cannot receive consecutive awards after this year. Okay, if you received a 2023 award, you can still apply for 2024, that's okay. But once you receive a 2024 award, we're going to a 2-year grant cycle. So you won't be able to apply for the Live Music Fund until 2026. All right, so next slide. Oh, one more mention on that last slide is that applicants can't accept both Nexus, Thrive, and Elevate, or cultural funding grant, and a Live Music Fund grant. I just want to put that out there. So if some of you are applying for some of the cultural arts funding programs like Nexus, Thrive, or Elevate, this is restricted by statute. You cannot also have a Live Music Fund grant in the same fiscal year. All right, so now slide number 8. Thank you. All right, so the independent promoter eligibility, you have to meet all of the following. No more than 3 staff, including the owner. And documentation showing that the applicant has curated and promoted live shows featuring musicians and bands for at least 2 years and must not be contractually tied to just one venue. Next slide, please. All right, so again, very similar here. Then to the musicians' requirements. You must live in the Austin Round Rock MSA. Again, this is for promoters. Austin Round Rock MSA regularly curate shows for the public. Only 1 application per independent promoter. You may not also apply as a professional musician. It's one or the other. Unless a promotional tour, public activities must take place in the city of Austin, council district, or an ETJ, and include 51% of performers who fit the city's definition of a professional musician, and those folks must live in the MSA. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting of the potential tourists and convention delegates. Again, you'll have a marketing plan that you'll submit. Professional musicians are compensated through grant funds, are paid at least the City of Austin musician pay rate that we just went over in the last slide. You must be 18 years old or older, and you cannot receive consecutive awards after fiscal year 2024. So if you win an award in 24, you're eligible again in 26. Next slide. All right. So to qualify as a live music venues, we're shifting over to live music venues now. The applicant must meet the live music venue definition. So a live music venue is where live music programming is the principal function of the business. Artists are compensated, and you meet the 5 of the following criteria. So A through H here define performance and audience space, a mixing desk, PA system, lighting rig, backline, at least 2 of the following: a sound engineer or bookkeeper or promoter, stage manager, security personnel, so just 2 of those. Charges admission to some music performances through ticketing or front door entrance, markets acts through show listings in printed and electronic publications. Your hours of operation coincide with performances, and we program live music at least 5 nights a week. So you don't have to meet all A through H, but you have to meet 5 of those. Next slide. All right. So eligible applicants of live music venues have to meet all of the following things. You got to be located, or the music venue has to be located in the city of Austin or ETJ. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. Professional musicians must be compensated at the city of Austin musician pay rate. Previous year operating budget and profit and loss statement must be submitted to determine the grant award amount. Remember, it was 30,000 or 60,000. When you submit your profit and loss or your operating budget, that's what will determine whether you get the 30,000 or the 60,000. And only 1 application per live music venue. All right, next slide, please. So this here is a list of the eligibility documents that you may upload to support your eligibility. You don't have to upload everything on this list. The list is meant to give you some examples of the kinds of documents that may help you establish your eligibility. So I can go through this list quickly: a resume, current biography, screenshots, PDF of LinkedIn, work history, press demonstrating your involvement with the music sector, portfolio, which includes web links, screenshots, printout scans, marketing materials for performances, exhibitions, etc., materials showing merchandise created and sold, credits or liner notes, purchased advertising, contracts for performances, exhibitions showing, etc., letter from employer or manager stating your role and involvement in the music sector, or website screenshot of events, a current schedule with a location. So you have a lot of stuff that you can choose from, that you can upload to show and prove your eligibility. This is for, again, professional musicians and independent musicians. Next slide. So next slide is the eligibility documents if you're a live music venue. So again, you don't have to upload all of these, but you'll need to upload the operating budget or profit and loss statement to determine your award amount. So that is really important. This kind of thing can come from your accounting software, like QuickBooks or something like that. So photos of performance and audience spaces, mixing desk, PA system, all the things that were on that definition list. Employee documentation for your sound engineer, booker, promoter, stage manager, security, etc., or W-2s, W-9s, 1099 forms, something that proves that you have these things. Evidence of marketing placements, hours of operation coinciding with performances, ticketing, etc. Previous year operating budget, again, I've mentioned that a couple of times. So next slide. All right, this slide shows eligible expenses. So this is everything that can be covered or paid for by the fund. So this grant is a little different from last year's grant for those of you who participated in the 2023 grant, because you don't have to create an event or a project to receive live music funds this year. Instead, the Live Music Fund can pay for some of the things that you're already doing. For example, your commercial rent for live music venues, your compensation to contractors, accounting, marketing, street teams, etc., compensation for employee salaries, insurance. From live music venues, that would be general liability insurance. For musicians and independent promoters, that would be event insurance or special event insurance for your public events. Lodging and traveling for participating artists, performance fees and guarantees, stage lighting and sound rental, studio and video production rental, excluding capital expenditures, supplies, telephone, internet, tourism marketing, like paid ads, merchandising, production, and the like, and venue rental, which is for public events. And going back to capital expenditures, what are capital expenditures? So basically, capital expenditures are things that like construction or something like that, or large equipment systems, things that aren't used up during the course of the grant. Things that are used up during the course of the grant are considered supplies. Right, next slide, please. And these are the things that the grant cannot pay for. Your travel costs, like, going back and forth across town, including gas, flights, hotels, parking, ferries, expenses paid before the application due date. Anything that you're working on that you may have just paid for, even though you're just now getting your application together, we can't cover that. It has to be after the application due date, which would be June 18th. Capital costs, including purchase, construction, and renovation of equipment and property. Food and hospitality may not be covered. Fundraisers and benefits. I know a lot of shows and events are for fundraisers, and the Live Music Fund cannot be spent towards fundraisers. Startup costs of a new organization, Live Music Fund cannot go towards that. Consultants who are also employees, that's kind of a double dipping issue. Payments to students or interns whose employment is tied to class credit, they're getting class credit already. Operating costs not associated with the project, purchase of gifts, awards, cash prizes, scholarships, contributions, or other donations. So we can't cover your contributions or your donations to a cause. Existing debts, Live Music Fund cannot cover existing debts, fines, contingencies, penalties, interest, we cannot cover interest or litigation costs, and taxes other than retail sales and payroll. Right? Next slide. So we're at the schooling. For musicians and promoters, applications will be scored in 5 categories. Access to services, what kind of economic impact the applicant has, the applicant's programming and outreach, accessibility to the disabled and non-English speaking communities, and the general public, and whether or not you previously received Live Music funds. So the kinds of questions that you're going to see in the application are going to ask you about healthcare and financial lending, languages other than English spoken in the household, a high level of dependency on music business income. Do you live in the qualified census tract? You'll have your address in there on the return. No grant funding from the City of Austin Cultural Arts Division last year. So if you already received some funding, if you didn't receive some funding, that might be favorable for you. Hires local musicians and other creatives. Do you hire local creative spaces? Do you hire local businesses for your operations, like merchandise production, marketing, equipment, storage, etc.? Does your programming expand the audiences and amplifies Austin's diverse arts and culture sectors? Tourism marketing strategies, do they reach visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates? Do you provide accessibility features for audiences with disabilities? Do you provide programming and features for non-English speaking communities? Do you provide programming open and accessible to the public? And also, did you get funding from the Live Music Fund in 2023? If you did not get funding, that's 15 points. If you did get funding, that you don't get the 15 points. It's kind of a bonus there. But some people who didn't get to participate last year. You'll notice that a lot of these things don't have to do with an event in particular. This has to do with you and your practices.
I do that again.
So this,
There it is.
Hello? So this has to do, these questions are tied to your performance in the past, the way that you conduct your business as a musician or independent promoter. It's not about a specific event to create for the Live Music Fund, because we're not asking you to
On my
create.
iPad too. I only take pictures of that.
Can everybody cut their mics off, please? Turn the mics off. All right, next slide. So we should be on slide 17. Thank you. All right, so scoring for the live music venues is very similar. Again, it's 5 categories. It's the same ideas, the same 5 categories. Access to services. We're going to ask about healthcare and business lending. Is the venue in a qualified census tract? Do you hire at least 40% local musicians and other creatives year round? Do you provide subletting opportunities? Do you provide free or low cost temporary space for other creative organizations? Do you provide internships and apprenticeships? Do you hire local businesses for business operations? Did you programming expand audiences and amplify Austin's diverse arts and culture sector? Tourism marketing strategies to reach visiting of potential tourists and convention delegates. Do you do that? Do you provide accessibility features for audiences with disabilities? Is your programming inclusive to non-English speaking communities? And did you receive City of Austin grant funding in the previous year? Not Live Music Fund, because that wasn't available to live music venues, but did you receive City of Austin grant funding in the previous year? For example, Creative Space Assistance Program, you received that, you no need to say that yes, you did. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the commitments that awardees, if you're awarded, that you will need to adhere to. And that is the professional musician compensation rate of the City of Austin's rate for any activities covered with live music funds. And we already went over that, but here it is in black and white. Promotional tours outside of Austin, the cultural tourism marketing requirements are that you use the tagline, Austin Live Music Fund presents, before your band meeting. The tourism marketing plan will be targeted to potential Austin tourists and convention delegates. We'll expect to see that in your marketing plan. For public events, they must be open to everyone. They must have event insurance. And if you have a public event, you need to list it on the Visit Austin's event calendar. We do have some training requirements if you receive live music funds. These trainings are provided to you at no cost, and they include equity strategic planning and tourism marketing and promotion. The City of Austin marketing statements and the logo will be included in your marketing placements, and the outcome and cultural tourism marketing reporting will be required if you win an award. You'll have progress reports to get your second payments and a final report to get your final payment. So the way that works is you get 50% up front, then you get your next 40% when you do your progress report, and then you get your last 10% when you complete your final report. So that's how the funding is distributed to awardees. All right, next slide. And this is my last slide, and then we'll open it up to the questions that are in the chat. This year we're using Submittable on the online application, which was a departure from last year. And so we will have some technical support guide and any technical questions like that that'll be provided to you through the Submittable applicant and technical support guide. You'll be able to link into that. Or the Lawn Center can also help you out with those questions. We're not using the portal system that we used last year, so please don't try to log in to your account from last year to apply for this grant. This is a completely different system this year. The Create Austin, the Lawn Center will be able to help you with any login issues. We've got lots of other opportunities for help, including these workshops. There's another one. If you attended today, you can attend again next time if you want to. There's another one on June 4th. And then we also have virtual office hours, and that Greg Gonzalez and I will be involved with to answer your questions Tuesday, June 11th and Tuesday, June 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. All right, that concludes my presentation. So we're going to open it up to any questions in the chat. And I think Shelby, are you on standby?
Yes, I just
All right.
want to make sure that y'all can hear me. I know I came on earlier and I was muffled.
Yeah, I thought I heard
Okay.
you talking. I wasn't sure if you
Sorry
were-
about that.
That's all right. That's all right.
We got a great team and I was trying to call something and Erica took care of it. So I'm here to address some of the questions in the chat. And I got kicked out trying to fix my situation around like 1:10. And so questions started at 1:18. If I happen to have missed yours, please feel free to add it in later. The first question is from Diana. She's curious if the work that has been done in other, I'm assuming states, will qualify for 2 years of experience as a form of proof. Does it have to be in Austin as far as your experience as a musician or any performer in Austin? Is that the only thing that qualifies?
So that's a great question. And no, if you moved here a few months ago and your experience is mostly somewhere else, but you're living in the in Austin or the MSA now, then yeah, you qualify. You just have to show, you know, your experience with any of those documents and that from that list that we had up there. Those documents, that list can also be found in the guidelines online. So you can go back over it, or you can always access this presentation again to see that list. Does that, hopefully that answers the question. So
Yeah. and
next.
just
For that.
mention that-
go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, just also wanted to mention that it doesn't have to be the last 2 years from your application. It could be any 2 years exhibiting your experience. I mean, it could even have been 20 years ago. You haven't performed in a while, and that's okay. That's part of the equity component of this grant, is to give all generations, all genres an opportunity to, you know, add their artistic, you know, stuff to the Austin community. And so it could be from any time as well. And I do want to just say, I wanted to see how many people need Spanish language translation, because I also can create the breakout room. But maybe what I can do is create that breakout room at 2 o'clock so that we can get through some of these questions. And, you know, so just if you need to have interpretation, if you could put in the chat for Shelby that you will need a breakout room with our interpreter at 2 o'clock, just please do that. And Carla, can you just let people know real quick also that at 2 o'clock we'll do a breakout room, and just to put that request in the chat.
Mientras estamos hablando, si es que usted necesita el servicio del intérprete, vamos a crear un cuarto para que podamos hablar y que ustedes puedan hacer sus preguntas alrededor de las 2 de la tarde.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Thank you, Carla. Another question asks, if we don't get the Nexus grant, does that disqualify applicants from the live music grant? And I guess, Kim, can you talk about that process around grants in other divisions and how we can or can't apply, or who's eligible and who's not?
If you don't get the Nexus grant, you can potentially, if you're selected, get the Live Music Fund grant. But if you were to apply for both, and then you would have to commit to one or the other by a certain date. So you won't be able to receive both.
This is Corinne Williams. I'm the one that sent the question, ma'am. Just a follow-up question. Are we allowed, though, to apply for both without being penalized?
Yeah, you can apply. You can apply, but just know that you can't receive both and that you will be asked to commit to one or the other.
Yeah, and for this particular 2024, if you've already applied for the Nexus grant, the one that closed in May, there will be a date, I think of June 24th, where you have to say, I will accept the Nexus grant. Unfortunately, you will not know yet if you've received a Live Music Fund grant. And so that's, you're just gonna have to decide what you'd like to do. But if you apply for the Austin Live Music Fund and you wanna apply also for Elevate or Thrive, which will be opening in June, we will have like a determination date that's for everybody so that you can see, okay, what was I awarded, and decide which one you want to accept. So unfortunately, it's just our timing was just so truncated this year that we couldn't do that for the first round of Nexus, but there will be a second round of Nexus in the summer. So, you know, you would know if whether or not you got a Live Music Fund grant if you wanted to apply for the next round of Nexus.
Great question. Thank you. And for those that aren't aware, Elevate and Thrive are also grants offered by our partner division, our Cultural Arts Division, and those come out in June, as Erica said. This is more of a statement, but I believe the concern is that proof for artists being paid by venues may be difficult. Is there other forms of documents that we can, maybe a Cash App lineup, or like what is everything that might qualify for proof of payment from venues or promoters to musicians, artists, and everybody in between?
So the application is not asking for proof of payment. are you talking about the musician pay rate? Is that what the question is about?
It was
Are you
proof of
asking-
compensation for artists by venues is going to be a hard one for Austin.
Yeah. So the application doesn't actually ask for that. You won't be required to produce proof. However, if it's discovered that somebody is using live music funds and not going by the rate, the city can reach out about that regarding that practice, if that's the case.
And also, if you're just trying to prove live music venue eligibility and, you know, paying musicians is one of those proofs, you don't have to show us that you're paying them a certain rate or even what the rate is. It's totally fine to show us just a receipt, a PayPal receipt or whatever. And these can be links, it could be document uploads. So it's just give us everything you can to prove your eligibility as one of the 3 categories. And then for the pay rates, yes, if you use the Live Music Fund funds to pay musicians, whether you're a venue, promoter, or a musician, you are promising us through an attestation in the application that you will be paying, if you use those funds to pay musicians, you're paying them the city rate. And you are promising us that you'll do that.
Thank you. So for our requirement around the 3 staff or less for promoters, does this include contractors that will be working on the project or that work with them?
No, it doesn't include contractors. It's just staff that are on the payroll.
Perfect. As far as any grants, I feel like I've been getting this question a lot, all encompassing of EDD or cultural arts and music grants awarded last year. Are people still eligible to apply this year for our Live Music Fund grant? Both if
Yes.
it was Nexus, Elevate, and Live Music Fund last year.
Okay. So yes, if you received the Live Music Fund grant last year, you are still eligible to apply for this year. Just note that if you do win a 2024 grant, no funds will be released until your fiscal year 2023 grant is closed out. So you can win it, but you can't receive the funds from the new grant until the old grant is completed. And yeah, if you received last year's cultural arts funds, then you can still apply for this year, 2024's Live Music.
Correct. You just can't receive a cultural arts and a Live Music Fund grant in the same fiscal year by the ordinance. And so, and it's also okay that you got grants last year. You just got to get that stuff done. That grant agreement flows, like Tim said, before your next grant agreement can be executed and payments start.
Are we all good there? Everybody, I think I saw somebody trying to talk. Okay. We have an applicant interested. Do I hear? Sorry. We have an applicant interested in using the funds to open a live music venue. That's great. They're curious about which fund they should apply for, if they can apply at all.
So the Live Music Fund cannot be used for startups. So it cannot be used to start a new music venue or business.
Yeah, and there is other support within the economic development department, such as the family family business loan program. And so there, we can direct you to our small business division for advice on capital for startup, for starting a new venue. And so if you could, we're going to be sure and get, everybody's information, just put in the chat, hey, I'm the one who asked about startup. My name is so-and-so, so that we can, refer you to the right place.
I asked that question. So just to be clear, I'm currently an independent promoter, but want to use funds to open the live music venue. So like an active independent promoter, does that mean I should apply to the grant for an independent promoter? And if so, would I be able to still use it for venue rent?
Yeah, you can apply as an independent promoter, but you cannot use the funds for any kind of capital expense or to start a venue or start a lease. That is not accepted. So if you, as a promoter, to be eligible as a promoter, you can't be currently tied to a venue. If you do promotion for several venues, you can use the funds to do a series of events or one big event at one of those places, or special event or a festival, whatever it is. But you cannot use live music funds for startups or starting anything brand new, like that's a bricks and mortar. That is not allowed.
Thank you for that question, Rachel. Thank you. Mike Fisher has concern around marketing, or just brought up the question around marketing specifically to convention delegates and tourists, and wants to, and Mike, if you want to elaborate or correct wherever you need to, wants to better understand how they can incorporate that in their marketing plan, since they are already a professional musician and it's just normal for musicians to do that. If there's an answer here, or Mike, if you would like to elab, please feel free.
Yeah, I don't have much to elaborate on. Just, most of the places I play, there are tourists there already, and most of the events I play are promoted online or through flyers or whatever. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding if there's something specific I should be marketing or promoting for to be eligible in this sense.
So we have the marketing plan, which is embedded in your application. And it has listed in there all different kinds of ways that you can be marketing to tourists, which includes social media, it includes print ads, radio ads, all kinds of things. So anything that's you're probably already doing could be included as marketing to potential tourists. Also, we have the Visit Austin calendar, event calendar that was in an earlier slide in the presentation. And that's another great way to show that you've marketed to potential tourists, because that's who goes to that website, are people who are coming into the city. They go to Visit Austin. What's there to do in Austin when I get here? And here's this list of events and yours is on it. So that way you can show you did that. And that's a very clear indication that you've marketed to tourists.
Yeah, that makes good sense. And yeah, there's like Do 512 and, other online publications that it makes sense to me now. I think that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, and also because there's funding, you can now start promoting outside of Austin. We really do want to see that audience development, because everything on the music world, everything we do, we're already promoting to potential tourists. But this gives you the opportunity with the funds to actually do some paid marketing to boost, to find new audiences outside of Texas. And that is definitely potential tourists and convention delegates. And the reason why that's a requirement is that this fund is funded through hotel occupancy tax revenues of the state of Texas. And that is a requirement of those state revenues, that the whole point is to attract more tourists and convention delegates to Austin, and also to promote to them while they're here of the different cultural things that we have here, including music. So it is definitely what you're already doing, but think a little bit bigger, and we will be providing training for everyone about how they can expand their marketing reach online, or in any way to expand audiences that is a direct correlation to potential tourists. So yeah, so don't worry about that. There's going to be training, but just definitely list everything that you're already doing.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question to expand on that?
Sure.
So if our marketing you've already described paid advertisements, but if our marketing includes hiring a PR company, would that count, or would that qualify? And if so, does it have to be an Austin-based PR company, or could it be someone not in Austin?
So the marketing company, it's 51% of your expenses have to happen within the city of Austin, because it's hot revenues that are that are earned through Austin stays. And so we want to see at least 51% of the funds you spend happening in Austin, but that leaves 49% that can be funded elsewhere. And a marketing firm would be considered a contractor, so that totally fits. But we do recommend, just for the best practice, is to learn all of that also on your own, so that you know what the marketing company is doing for you, and you have a good sense of helping them to shift. If like something's not working, you can tell it's not working, and so we really want you to learn the tools as well.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a question from Julie. Can we go ahead and take that? Julie?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to get the mic on. So it's also regarding the whole PR firm and all that, and you say that there's going to be training for marketing once we get the grant, right? But we have to include our marketing plan in the grant application. So if we're kind of newbies with marketing within Austin, and we only get the training after, like how do we navigate that?
It's a very simple marketing template that we'll be showing you in the application. It just says like, divvy up X amount of money, however much money that is from your full budget that you want to put to marketing. There are different, scenarios, different ways strategies you can do that, just that off the top of your head, which would be like website, social media posts, sharing through our partners and our friends and our fellow bandmates. And so just list everything you can think of that you typically would do. You don't have to be a marketing expert to fill that out, but you need to fill it out of like, what would you do to try to promote your show or your record? So just put as much as you can in there, and we're happy to provide examples of strategies. I think we have some FAQs that explain that. And if we don't, we'll be sure to add another FAQ to the website.
Yeah, that would be great, because we also have to include like how much that's going to cost as part of our budget, right?
Yes, you don't have to go and get estimates out there. It's how much you're willing to spend on social media boosts or a Google ad campaign or a Austin Chronicle art ad. You don't need to go find out what those prices are to put it into your marketing template. You just guesstimate how much you're willing to spend on each of these strategies. And we're not going to hold you to, you said you were going to spend 500 on an ad. Why didn't you do that? Because you're going to get the training. And so you may decide, hey, I would like to reallocate how I'm going to do some of this marketing based on this training and what I think now would be a better fit. And so that's just fine. So just put in there what you think you could do, and just guesstimate on the costs of all of that. You just have to include it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Technical question around eligibility documents. Should they include links to press articles and other events and things like that, or should they upload screenshots of articles and their work as proof? This is from L. Warner. I'm assuming of experience. Feel free to clarify if you need to, if you're still here. So links versus screenshots.
So I believe that the application system can handle either. So you could do either one, and just be careful that with screenshots, things don't get cut off. That would be my advice about screenshots. I've seen that kind of thing happen. So, you want to get the whole thing on there. But anyway, I think either one is acceptable in the application. You have the ability to do either.
KT Gardner, for musicians, does compensation help cover my agent fees?
Those would be contractor fees.
So yes.
Also, if the artist wants to do a promotional tour where the goal of it is to end up, say, at the Folk Alliance and represent themselves and Austin in turn at the Folk Alliance to encourage people to hire them, is the expenses related on that promotional tour, such as gas, lodging, and such, to get to on the tour. So what then, so it's only promotion that is covered for the tour?
Yeah, like merchandise, your marketing expenses, paying the band, paying your tour manager. It's all the eligible expenses that you saw that could be paid towards your promotional tour. But we can't allow hotel occupancy tax that is earned in Austin to pay for a hotel stay in a different state. That just, if it doesn't, it just doesn't work. It's not allowed.
Got it. But how about the convention fees that are associated with presenting themselves at the convention?
Let me think on that. Let's get back to you, but my sense is that it still wouldn't be an allowable cost. It's not a direct travel cost, but let me think on that. The only thing that you just need to be aware of is the marketing requirement, which is the Austin Live Music Fund presents. And if you are going to join a ticket that already has marketing rules in place, or like a lead sponsor that doesn't allow for the Austin Live Music Fund presents, header, then take that into account. So it will be difficult if you're support or if you're joining a festival. You can't really dictate to them our marketing requirements, and so just keep that in mind.
Got it.
Thank you. This is a question from Julie, and if you're close, I might need your help. I just want to understand. It sounds like she's coming from as an applicant, as an independent promoter, or a professional musician, asking a question about liability event insurance and possibly collaborating with a venue. Who's responsible for that? Is it the venue, or is it ourselves as professional musicians or promoters? Julie, I see you're coming off. If you'd like to clarify, feel free.
Yeah, yes. So I know for performances, we have to have quote unquote event insurance. And as a performer for many, many, many years, I've never, ever had to buy insurance for that, because the venue, the building, the structure, or wherever you're performing usually has liability insurance and covers like if someone trips on a stair or whatever. And so I was wondering if we performing musicians need to carry liability insurance or show that the location has its own liability insurance. And if not, like I have a personal umbrella policy, is that good enough? Or two, if we need to get this event insurance, which I've never ever gotten, does every musician in the band need to get event insurance, or just the leader?
So the event insurance is required, and there are a couple of reasons for that. We had some experience in the last round, and which was our very first live music fund grant that we've ever done. And what we learned is that a lot of the venues are not always willing to put your event as a additional insured. And even though we understand that most of them carry insurance, we don't have any way of knowing, right, of who does or whose insurance would have lapsed or whatever. And because the venue is not a party to your grant agreement, it's sometimes difficult to get a hold of that. So event insurance is required, and that's one way that we can guarantee that the event is definitely covered, whatever happens. It typically isn't terribly expensive as far as insurances go. It's, if you're looking for places, I think that where to go to get started, I think the Lawn Center had was able to give a little bit of help on kind of getting people started shopping around for that kind of thing. But it can be covered by the grant. So it's an expense that can be paid for by the grant. It doesn't have to come out of the pocket.
Is an umbrella policy though, like I have an umbrella policy just for my life, does that cover event insurance? If
It
not,
would depend on your specific insurance. Likely not, but it would depend on what your insurance says.
so if it doesn't, then does each musician need to have their own event? Like if I'm playing in a group at a venue?
No, each musician
leader?
doesn't have to have it. You just have to have whoever's in charge of the event, whoever's getting the grant funding,
Okay.
whose name is on the grant agreement, needs to provide the special event insurance.
Yeah, and it's for that date and time, basically.
And that insurance is not expensive per event. Just so this individual understands, you can get those policies with $100 to $200, and they are very good to have in place, both for the musician and the venue.
Definitely. And keep in mind, in the state of Texas, insurance isn't required, believe it or not. You would think that it is, but it's not. And so you don't want to just assume anything just because someone has a commercial base that they have the level of insurance that they should have. So just to protect yourself and your band, definitely that's why the event insurance requirement is there.
Could you guys post some links to the type of, I already kind of Googled it, but I don't know like what you guys need the policy to say.
That would be more of a conversation with the Long Center, because these are agreements with the Long Center. And so Maria, who is on the call here, Maria Contreras is with the Long Center. And if you could, if you go to our website, you'll see kind of the email addresses and phone numbers for Create Austin at the Long Center. You can reach out to them directly and they'd be more than happy to give you more information.
And just like a tangential question, if the venue itself is, can the venue pay us in addition to the grant money? Like, and so at that point, we'd be part of their roster of whatever's happening there. So that's allowable then.
Well, you know, it depends on what you want to do, because if you do it all yourself, because the funds are enough to say maybe do a venue rental, and you're selling tickets, you can keep all of that money. It's a bigger revenue earner for you. And a lot of bands do this that are kind of mid-level and have that experience, is that you want to not broker the deal, you want to just do the rental and you earn all the money. And so it just keep that in mind. You know, I would probably just pay other things. You know, you have your deal with the venue if you prefer that, keep that separate, and then you can still pay your musicians additional to that for practice time and all of that, you know, in addition.
Thank you.
Sylvie,
May
are there any
I,
others? Go ahead.
oh, sorry. May I make a request, or actually just maybe a suggestion for future materials like presented on the website?
Is it about this particular question about insurance?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then after that, we're going to go forward with the other questions, but go ahead.
Gotcha. I can second too that in my experience of performing as a musician professionally for over 20 years, almost never do musicians ever have anything to do with insurance, even as organizers, because a lot of us are running on very little budget, or like we are creating events that are like not official. So it would be, I think, beneficial to musicians going forward to provide more resources alongside the grant on that, just so that we have it all in one place and we're easily able to learn how this process works, because I've never done that and nobody I know has ever done that. So it's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
That's what Create Austin is there for, is to help with that capacity building for your business as well. And let's just be frank, this is kind of a new thing, because insurance across the board is getting difficult, not only for live music venues, but for your house, for
fair.
And so that's why this has come up as needed to be a requirement. But happy to provide those resources and training and for you and for everybody, for applicants and awardees.
Gotcha. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Shelby, what's the next question in the chat?
Yeah, and I just want us to all be mindful of time. We have until 2:30, unless either of our staff is willing to stay. I'm sure we'd be open to it, but I do want to honor everybody and respect everybody's time. So for any questions that I feel like we've answered already, of course, I'm going to skip over those. And please, once we have this posted, please go back and reference. I just want to make sure I can get to everybody. So I'm also going to just read the questions as they are. From Susanna. Yeah.
We read the next one. I wanted to see if there's anyone that needs Spanish language in the chat.
I didn't see anybody.
Okay, well, just let us know. You know, we have someone here to help. So just remind everyone that's available. All right, Shelby.
Yes,
Yeah,
and if
would now be a good time for Carla to just give a reminder to any Spanish speakers if they're
that'd
here?
be great.
So, okay, Carla, could you just let people know that we can do a breakout room again, and with the Spanish, if you and a staff member to answer any questions in Spanish. Thank you.
De nuevo, este es un recordatorio de que ya después va a haber un espacio en donde le llaman el break room, en donde van a poder hacer preguntas. De nuevo, a las 2 de la tarde se creará una sala de descanso separada para cualquier pregunta en español.
Thank you, Carla. All right, Shelby.
Thanks, everybody. Susanna asked if, I'm trying to read it correctly, if DJs are considered live performances in the venue. Yes, 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 yes. Is there any restriction on location for contractors? I believe that this was answered earlier. 51% of it has to be dedicated to Austin's economy. Can musicians use funds towards touring? I feel like that's been answered. This one's unique, so I'm just gonna read it through. If grant funds are going to pay venue rent and a fundraiser takes place in that venue during that time, but otherwise is not paid for by the grant, is that allowed? From Rachel.
I'm not sure that I can picture
clarify for you.
that. So can you
Sure.
give an example, whoever asked that question?
Yeah.
It looks like there's a clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, as part of my proposal, I had this idea to do a record release show, to rent out the venue, to use grant funds to pay my musicians and pay the venue, but to donate the proceeds of door sales to a charity of my choice. Would that violate the restriction on the use of grant funds for fundraisers?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I wanted to know.
I know in the music business, we do a lot of benefits and fundraisers. It's the music business, and it's but unfortunately, again, this is a state of Texas statute requirement.
What's your issue?
So I actually asked that question and was wondering if there was a, like, yeah, if the grant funds are going to just paying venue rent and another party uses the venue for a fundraiser of their own.
Thank you, then.
And we just let them use the venue for that fundraiser while, like, over the course of the grant period. Is that okay?
You could like prorate, like look at your rent for, you know, what part you are taking, because, you know, even the $60,000 is, you know, rent in Austin. There's just no way you're going to cover all your rent for all of the year. And so it's conceivable that, you know, rent is paying certain, you know, percentage of certain months and not others. And so just keep that in mind. And you could say this paid for, Kim, how do you prefer to see that? Like, if when we do final reporting, do we get into that granular of detail?
No, we don't actually get into that granular detail. Don't put anything about your any stuff like that in the grant. I would have to send it back if you put anything like that in the budget. So just, it's, you know, this is not a matching grant. We don't require a match. And so there's a lot of information that you don't need to put into your budget. Really, we're looking at how are you spending the funds? But if it is for something that we know is not not an eligible expense, we would have to reject it. So, you know, be very careful, but yeah, I would be very separate about that kind of thing.
If you apply for a benefit, you're going to get denied. But if you apply for your regular schedule of ticketed shows, it may or may not include some benefits. There's just no way there's enough money to cover all your rent for all of the year. So it's, you know, it'd be very hard to prove that that grant dollar went to that benefit.
I have a question around capital costs. Would they apply to the acquisition, excuse me, of materials used in construction of instruments and the documented process for the public specific to the project?
So typically, if your equipment or any of what you consider to be your expense in question is something that it has life after the grant, then it's probably a capital expense. If it doesn't have life after the grant and it's used up, then it's probably a supply. That's a good rule of thumb. If you have a question that's more specific, you can come to us and ask.
And then there was another question about DJs real quick. Yes, DJs are eligible as professional musicians.
Yep. Have a question around how to find info on qualified census tracts. How do we know where we're at?
I believe that in the application is there, Maria, I might need you to help me out on this question. But I think in the application, is there a link where they can get on and look that up themselves? If not, you can always come to staff and ask us and we'll look it up for you. But Maria, I'll let you answer whether or not there's a way to do that in the application, a link to the outside.
There is.
Okay. Thank you. So there will be a way to do that in the application, but if it's too confusing or if you know, too hard to figure it out or whatever, you can always ask us.
And you can ask us also, and we can guide you through it as well.
And just as a reminder, the qualified census tract for professional musicians and promoters, that's your home address, and for venues, it's your venue address.
For independent promoters and professional musicians, how would they show disability access of their venues? How do they show that they're going to have that or document?
Okay. So if it's an event that you're using Live Music Fund money to cover, then you would look at the place that you're going to have that event. This might be one way of doing it to see what kind of physical thing, but there's also.
Real quick, Kim, this is the question relates to past activities though, when you look at the questions in the application. So how would they document their past accessibility?
So same thing. I mean, if you hold events, you've had events, you would want to point out some of the places that you had them and how accessible they were. That would be the physical aspect of the, you know, accessibility. So look at the venue, say we've had X number of shows at such and such venue that, you know, I mean, you can explain that, but also there are other things if you're applying as a musician or a promoter that you maybe have on your website is easy to navigate. Maybe you've had a certain software installed that makes your website easy to navigate for people who are sight impaired. Or maybe you have on your recordings or something, there's a way to have the lyrics on the screen or something like, you know, there are different things and different ways that you may have used in the past that, you know, to help people who either are disabled or to reach out to people, you know, who don't speak English or something like that. But you'd want to show what some of those were. I mean, another example might be use of Braille on a program or something like that for a live event. But anyway, so you hopefully get the idea. So look back at the past and see how you may have utilized some, you know, ways to reach out to those audiences.
Hi, Julie, do you have time for a quick comment?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the application itself asks for like to upload documentation for this, not just put it in prose. So how do you like prove that, you know, the venue?
You can take a picture of it. You can upload a screenshot. You know, you can upload an email transaction. You can, you know, upload a contract for somebody who maybe you had do sign language or just anything that you know. And if you have a question about it, you can always ask the Lawn Center or us. You know, hey, is this an acceptable thing to upload if you're not sure about it?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. The scenario goes, if they applied as an independent art or a professional musician last year, and this year they want to apply as a promoter, does it affect their 15 points? Because they change.
No, because it's still the Live Music Fund. So either you got the Live Music Fund or you didn't, whatever you applied as. Either you got it or you didn't.
Right.
If you got it, you don't get the 15 points. If you didn't get it, you get the 15 points. It's kind of a bonus thing. We're trying to make sure that this is an inclusive process and that other people who maybe didn't get funding in the past may have a chance to get it this time.
For applicant banking history, is longevity a positive?
So not necessarily. So we are looking at lack of access. So people who've been left out, people who have not been able to get funding through a bank or traditional means, people who have not been able to get that grant, people who have not been able to be in line in front. You know, we want to push some, you know, folks up to the head of the line a little bit and give them a little bit of help.
There's a question around pay rates. Is this per session or per, I'm assuming, interaction with the contractor, whoever they're working with, or is this one lump sum as the minimum, payment minimum?
For the musician pay rates, this is any funds that any performances or recordings or anything that you're using Live Music Fund for. So if that Live Music Fund is going, that you're using that money directly to pay musicians, you need to abide by the pay rate.
To be a little bit more specific, typically, well, at least in the industry I work in, we pay per session usually, which means that if a person shows up for a concert, that's one session. If they show up for a rehearsal, that's one session. If they are in a recording studio for 3 hours, that's a session.
Right.
So what I'm trying to specify is like, if someone spends 20 hours recording your album
Mm.
and you only pay them $200, that's not really a fair amount. So is this per session or total?
This is a minimum. This is a minimum and it's for performances. Erica, does it cover
Oh,
recording
okay.
sessions even?
It's supposed to be performance hours, so it's $200 per musician per
Mhm.
performance hour.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't specified actually on the website. So,
Well, the ordinance or the resolution that the city council passed didn't mention per hour, but that's what we do as the City of Austin Music Entertainment Division. It's not a flat rate, it's per hour.
Gotcha.
Regardless of whether or not the city resolution says that, that's our expectation. But, you know, obviously if you have more bandmates and, you know, whether it's more than 7 or more than 10, I think that's a pretty good rule to go by per performance.
So if you had like more than, because I have an ensemble of like 14 musicians.
I think it's a $1,500 flat rate.
Or yeah.
Gotcha.
Over 5
Oh,
musicians.
I see. So like that $1,500 would be for all the musicians or for like each individual as like a lump sum?
For the whole band.
Oh, okay.
And it's a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not intending to use it as a minimum, but I just wanted to make sure, because also on the side of me as a musician who may work with venues that or other groups that are using this grant, I want to make sure that me and others are paid fairly as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just a really quick follow-up. So for studio sessions, it would also be $200 an hour per musician, or no?
Well, I mean,
It's our-
the resolution is per performance hour, but obviously if, you know, it's still a minimum. You know, we'd want to see if that's the only time you're paying the musician, pay them the standard rate. You know, just because you say, oh, that was 3 hours of studio work and wasn't actually a live show, so we're not going to pay you the rate. You should pay them the rate. Like that's the intent, is any live music funds, and this is the intent of city council and mayor, is that if live music fund grants are used, you're paying them at least the standard rate. So if you're paying that for the studio sessions, pay them the rate. You know, obviously there's so many hours throughout the year of practice, studio work and live shows that there's just no way you're going to be able to pay every, you know, musician for every single hour they work. Just pay the rate for what you're reporting.
Okay.
Your dedicated part of the grant for musician pay, just be sure it's the standard rate.
So say I have a recording engineer who charges $500 a day, and that's his stated rate. That doesn't, do I now cut him out of the budget because it's not possible to line his rate up with a $200 an hour rate?
No, it's a minimum. If you pay people's rate, like even a band, even if you hire a musician that's going to be $1,000, that's their rate. You pay that, and that's allowed. This is just a minimum.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, as you just mentioned, it's a minimum. I thought earlier in this meeting you said it was a limitation, and so if we're doing several shows throughout the 2 years, then we can just pay the musicians for those shows, even if it's the same musician.
Oh yeah, it's per performance hour. So if it's your band and it's 5 shows, you pay them for.
Okay.
Budgeted.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question, just clarification of what you were just saying as far as if between performance hours and say for session hours, because you said if that is the only time that you're using them, say if they're recording something for a session, then pay them the rate. What if it's a situation where you're all working on a project, but then there's also going to be the live component. So the live performance hours, of course, you pay that minimum rate. And then would that vary as far as the session? Because of course, there's going to be a lot more session hours than performance hours, or do they still have to match up?
You're going to budget a certain amount of the 15 or 30 to pay musicians that you will then, you know, promise to tell the city, like, if we ask you for receipts, we're gonna need to see those receipts. And just by the way, you don't have to like give us all your receipts at the end of this grant cycle, but there's audits happen all the time with government funding. So just be prepared, like, oh, I need to show you my receipts. I said I'd spend $5,000 on musician pay. So you better show us some canceled checks or Venmo receipts that you paid that. But again, you're not going to be able to pay for every single hour for every single band member. There's just not enough money if you want to pay for other things as well. So whatever you commit to the city of saying, I'm going to pay, I have paid $10,000 to musicians out of this budget. Just be prepared to, you know, prove it.
Okay, understood. All right, thank you.
If I did not do my taxes last year, do I still qualify? Or am I still eligible to apply for this year's grant?
Yeah, we're not asking for your tax records. So we're not the IRS, and we're not asking for all that information. You're eligible to apply for all of the eligibility reasons that were listed in this presentation.
If somebody is seeking 30K as a independent promoter or a professional musician, could they still possibly be awarded 15K? Is it still possible to be awarded, or is it all or nothing with what they're pursuing?
Ask for what you think you'll spend, because that's, if you get awarded, that's the amount you'll receive. But if you get to the end of the grant and you can't spend it all, then you may have to, you may have to give some of it back. So understand that money that's given, or you may not be given all of it, but you may not be given the last 10% if you can't show that you're spending it all. So ask for what you believe that you'll spend, and be prepared to spend it on eligible costs. And what you ask for is what will determine what you get. No one else is going to determine what you get for you, other than live music. For live music venues, it's that operations, your budget. I mean, your yearly operations budget, or your P&L that will determine what you which one you get.
Yeah, and I want to just say that keep in mind that this is a grant for music industry here in Austin. And so if you don't need 30 grand, don't ask for 30 grand, ask for the 15. And then with that comes the professional development, the training, so that you understand how you could spend 30 grand in a responsible way on your business the next time, in 2 years from now. So, we really don't want to see, oh, I just asked for 30 because it was a lot and I have no idea how to spend it. Well, you're probably not ready for 30 grand to do that, so just be practical and talk to us beforehand.
Nikki, I see you have a hand. If you have a quick comment.
Well, a couple of questions real quickly. Number one, I've done a variety of different kinds of events where I've promoted local artists and had, an entire roster of artists. I've also done like workshop style events. The last one Erica actually spoke with Carver sort of pre-pandemic. With these events, is it limited to performance events only? And then number two, do I have to do local artists somewhere on the ticket mandatory? Or what if I wanted to bring in like an R&B artist and do like an acoustic set at Carver Museum from that particular artist? And those were the two main questions, and I might have a follow-up.
So yes, they have to be music events. We can't do like panels and different things like that. The intent is, if it's a public facing event, it should be performance based. And there isn't a rule that says that it has to be local. Of course, we want to see local talent supported. For example, if you bring in a bigger act that is a good draw, try to put local support on that so that we really are uplifting our community. But from the state of Texas perspective, it's about draw is the draw. And so bringing in somebody that has a bigger draw is just fine. But just keep that in mind, though, as you're organizing something, is to how can we use the opportunity and the funds to elevate our local music community as well.
Okay, so then on that, along those lines, and I heard someone say earlier that DJs are considered musicians. Of course, they wouldn't necessarily have a 6-song CD released or anything like that. But that would count as under my promoter, or would they count as part of the artist piece?
The artist.
Okay.
Musician.
Uh,
It would be more the 2 years of doing
Experience.
And so you would just show evidence of all the different times you've DJ'd at different events.
Okay, and so then my other question was that I had actually put in the chat. Do I have to show that I have done ongoing events the past 2 years, or do I need to just be able to show that I have indeed done events in Austin from the live promoter perspective?
You just need to show 2 years of live promoter events, and it doesn't have to be in Austin. It doesn't have to be the last 2 years. It just has to be 2 years of, demonstrate 2 years of experience. So maybe you've got some promotion, like some advertisements or promo, and it shows the date, 2017, 2019, just show us as much as you can to show that you have 2 years of experience at some point promoting live music shows.
I've been recognized by, well, he's the current mayor again, but when he was the mayor the first time for an outdoor concert series that I did, but this was quite some time ago. I usually send that in as just the reference, a paper trail of, yes, I've been recognized for actually doing events here. And then there's some other things that, venues that I did miscellaneously down on 6th Street and so on and so forth. For those, I more or less have photos and maybe a flyer or two, but I'm not sure. So how would I, for older events, how could I show proof, or can I just illustrate that by, in summary, saying, I've done these particular events or what have you?
Yeah. It would be great to have any kind of actual evidence from an old online link, an old calendar entry, just to keep that fair and equitable across the board, is try to get as much actual evidence. An old advertisement could be like an old magazine or an old chronicle or whatever it is, that you can just scan it and upload it.
And there's points that are allocated for how we answer that question. So I'm wondering if I just submit the one where I was recognized by the mayor, and realizing that I might not get the full amount of points.
There are no points.
I mean,
for eligibility.
I'm sorry?
You need points for eligibility.
You don't get points for eligibility.
That's not scored.
Okay.
So Nikki, you're either eligible or you're not. If you're deemed not eligible, you won't move on to the rest of the application. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to see what all I can submit as sufficient proof. I do have my trademark that's registered that shows that type of experience in my trademark. Go ahead.
I do want to make sure we have so many questions, and we are more than willing to help you. You can email us for specific questions. I want to move through these, and you can email us at music@austintexas.gov. There's an extension that can be considered. Erica, you can hit me, but I want to make sure we go through the rest of these questions because people have been waiting. So, but yeah, those are good questions. Nikki, Rudy, if they are not pertaining to any other questions I can spit out in these last few minutes, if you could please email us for quick answers. I want to make sure we answer those for
You
sure.
said
music@austintexas.gov.
Okay.
And then all of our information is on our website, on our webpage at atxmusic.org.
I think I have Erica's email address as well. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nikki. Erica, how we feeling about time?
Well, I had already extended the meeting till 3. If people, you can definitely drop off if you want to. We can continue answering questions. We'll take a look at all of the questions within the chat and see the most common ones and add them to our FAQ with answers. So, so if you feel like you're not getting getting to your question, like Shelby just said, email us directly, email the Long Center directly. Check back on our website at the FAQ section. We want to be sure that we get all your questions answered. So, and if you have time, hang out with us a little bit longer and we'll keep answering questions.
Yeah, I'll probably
Thanks
hang out
so
as well.
much. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for all of your questions and all of your clarification. This is helping each other and us as well. Back to the questions. Are the virtual open office hours, did I say that right? Available to our applications to be reviewed for edits? As far as I know, no, we cannot review for any edits. Office hours are for questions to help you have better direction with you filling out your application, but we cannot review. As far as feedback, Erica, is there anywhere that they can get that? I don't think we can do
No,
that
we
either.
can talk to the
Okay.
listener, and we can't like go and answer the questions for you and walk through. We can, the Long Center can walk through the submittable application with you in case you have any questions just technically about how to load, but we can't tell you like, oh, you should answer it this way. We just can't do that.
So one thing I want to add to that is this application, like last year's application, there's not a lot of essays in here or things like that for you to write. It's mostly multiple choice. And for some of the multiple choice answers, you might have to put a little explanation in the explanation box and then upload a couple of things to prove what you just said. But basically it's not, it's not paragraphs and things like that to be judged. It's a multiple choice.
Yeah. And we do ask for like, explain to us what you're doing. And it's like and it is just a description, but you're not being graded on it. We don't grade any of the descriptions. I think there's only one about accessibility where we want you to explain what type of accessibility features you've done in the past. And that's because we just couldn't think of every multiple choice answer, for that. All of them, all the score questions are multiple choice, then a briefly explained, and that's just to give context to our evaluators to understand your multiple choice answers. Be very brief, or you don't, just very, very brief. And then it's really more about the links to your evidence or the documentation that you upload as evidence. That's where the points come in.
Yeah, but please, if you check off a box on one of the multiple choice answers, support it. Okay, because you may not get credit for an answer if it's not supported.
Go ahead.
I would also like to add that while we can't review your application and give you advice on it, if you feel like you submitted your application and you missed something that you want to go back in and add, you can request editing access up until the application window closes. So that is always available to you. The guide how to do that is within the application itself, or you can just contact us and we'll give you that editing access. So that's once after you've submitted, if you feel like you need to go back in and edit it.
Great point. Thanks, Maria.
Would having letters of support from partnering businesses strengthen an application? For example, hiring a videographer for promotion.
So a letter of support might be useful to demonstrate that you work with local businesses or something like that. But other than that, there's not really a place for you to just randomly upload letters of support to show that, you're a great business or something. It's not that kind of application. It's multiple choice. And if there's an opportunity for a letter of support to make your answer stronger and you can upload something like that, upload it. And otherwise there won't be an opportunity to upload those kinds of things.
Like say the
Yes.
videographer, if it evidences that you've worked with this local videographer a lot and they've that you as have really contributed to them as a small business, and they write you a letter saying, I've worked with so-and-so for 20 years and they have always, they've been a great partner and helped my small business. That's documentation to evidence your multiple choice answer that you hire local businesses.
Okay. And if it's okay with the rest of staff, I'm only going to have staff comment. If you have any other specific questions, please write it down and email us. I want to make sure I get through these questions. Thank y'all so much. Reading it verbatim. When you say release recordings and videos, can this be on a web page or what do you consider released?
Yeah, if it's published so that it's public, then it is professionally released. Is that correct, Erica? I believe it's, if it's published in a way that it's open, that people can access it,
Yeah.
whether that's on a web page or if it's on another a platform, then it is considered a published video or published recording.
Your website, YouTube, you name it.
Beautiful. Is the qualified census tract the 5 counties of Austin MSA?
No,
Or are
that's
they
a
different?
separate thing. So qualified census tract is something that's governed by the federal government. They are the ones who put out what qualified census tracts are. So we go to a specific website provided by the government, the US government, and we look up that address there to see if it's in one of those federally, declared qualified census tract. But the MSA is a whole different thing. That's just the counties that's surround Travis and Travis County. So that's just any county that touches Travis is included in that MSA. Completely different, two different things.
Can 2 members of a band team up and combine the money for the larger project for that band? Quick answer is no.
Yep, one application per band. However, let's say you want to put a festival on and you want to do it in a park or wherever it is. Multiple bands can pool their awards for that festival. But it's one application per band.
Yeah.
And that lead applicant cannot also apply as a promoter because a lot are both.
Right.
If multiple bands pull together to pull off a festival and use live music funds, the expenses must be separate for each band. So one band could cover, musician fees, and the other band could cover stage and, lighting and whatnot, and, et cetera. But they have to be separate expenses if you choose to do that.
The no double,
My own question, sorry.
no double,
Yeah.
that's a rule, just no double.
Right, no double dipping. So my question, because I feel like it'll come up and I've heard it. If I am a musician in a band and the lead applies, but I have my own project and I want to apply for it, can I do that? And 2, do I have to document that? Being aware, if I am aware that my band leader has applied, do I need to document that in my application
No.
for my
So,
project?
yes, you can do it because, a lot of musicians are in multiple bands. We're very aware of that. But the band lead can only have one application. You can be a member of that band but that band lead is going to receive the check. If you win an award, that band leader will be the one to receive the check and then distribute money to whatever cost, or musicians or whatever. So the money may trickle down to you as another band member, but you can apply for a different band, not the same band, but you can be the lead on a different band that you work with and receive money that way. Did that answer the question? Yeah, Erica.
Yeah, no, I just said Carla has a request for a breakout room for and so Shelby, do you know how to do the breakout rooms? If I make you host, can you do that? Because I'm afraid that I'll be dawdling around.
It would take some time away from questions if somebody can take those over.
Here.
Or if Greg knows how, because I think he'll be joining as well.
Hey, Greg,
But
you want a breakout room? Are you on the? I just haven't, so I just don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, I'm here.
What is the breakout room for?
It's for Spanish language interpretation.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, so
Is it open right now? Or do I need to make one?
Yeah, you'll have to make one, add Carla to it, and also yourself and whoever else needs the interpretation. And I can make you a host to do that.
Okay.
And I just did.
All right.
So Carla, who's the other person that's participant that needs the breakout room?
I believe there was an individual with the name Daniel Cobos.
Okay, Danielle Cobos. All right, so let's hope that gets worked out. And Shelby, why don't you continue?
thank y'all. Sorry about that. I was like, gonna put a pause on all these beautiful questions because there's so many. Would paying for studio recording time be an acceptable expenditure? Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if it's in the 51. Oh, sorry, guys. Did we get a comment somewhere? Greg?
I'm sorry, I'm working on this room thing. I forgot I wasn't on mute.
Okay. But yes, you can spend money on recording in the studio. If there's any comment there, Erica, Kim?
Yeah, it just needs a promotion component. So Kim, do you want to kind of go into how they can still even promote to tourists even if it's a recording?
Erica, can you repeat that again? I'm getting an echo from Shelby, so I'm not following.
Okay, well, I'll answer. It's so yes, you can do a recording. You can do merch, you can do these other things, but you can also, like all musicians know how to do, we promote the heck out of everything. So it could be like you in the session in the booth at the recording studio and telling your audience, I'm working on our breakout album that's gonna, we'll have an event, stay tuned. And then promote that like you would anything else to potential, like to your audience that could be on the other side of the world. And those are potential tourists and convention delegates. And so just don't let it be, you should always be connecting with your audience, even if you are still recording and you haven't played a live show in a while. That's also part of the professional development as you as a band and as your business, is that you constantly need to be reconnecting with your audience. And so that's why that promotional tool of doing so is acceptable to promote that, activity.
But that video and or recording then does not have to have a live performance to then qualify for this grant. It can cover the expense of the video and the recording.
Yes, but you also need to have an expense to promote it, to promote that recording, to promote that video.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to have a live.
It doesn't have to have a live component to it. We're hoping with the larger grants, with the long span, that you can cover several things within your cycle for that particular record, including the show, like the open, the record release. But it doesn't necessarily have to. So just be very cognizant and sure that you are promoting and spending money like to promote that record, and you're connecting with people outside of Texas. Again, training available to help with that. Just make sure you're promoting everything.
Is the grant available for music producers?
Only the 3 eligibility categories. Independent promoters, if you're a promoter and you promote shows as a producer, then you've got to show us the eligibility of you promoting.
And if the producer considers themselves to be a musician and they put out music, maybe with collaborating with artists, does that make them eligible to fund their project collaborating with artists or their space or whatever? Trying to see if there's any way that they might qualify.
Kim, are you still getting an echo? Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. I can hear that one. Yeah, so if you qualify as a musician, you can apply as a musician. If you're doing a project that's about music and it's about recordings or, something like that, it doesn't have to be necessarily you that you're recording. Then you can, then it's fine. So basically stick with the eligibility, who's eligible. So if you're a promoter or you're a musician and you qualify as one of those, and you can apply, but all of your expenses have to be in the list of eligible costs. And so long as you meet those 2 things, then it should be fine.
I wanted to branch off this question.
Okay, do you mind if I keep going through? And I want to make sure I get everybody that's been waiting, because it's just been so many that have popped up. Please revisit eligibility, eligible expenses. That's a big one. You'll find that you'll either qualify you didn't even know, or you can X yourself out. Just continue to look over those, form your questions, and don't forget to reach out to us at music@austintexas.gov. That's really what it will come down to.
Yeah, Max, this is a specific question.
Right.
That's all good. Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, Max.
That's okay.
I feel so bad for everybody else. Thank you so much for asking all your questions. I'm trying to get through. Can musicians use this grant to collaborate with a visual artist for performance at a gallery? And I'm assuming they want to pay this performing artist mixed media. Can they use the funds for their event or their performance or their?
Sure, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be in a live music venue to qualify as a musical performance, not at all. And you can certainly pay for artists to be part of the performance. You know, like even if it's someone painting while it's happening, or Kim, correct? I mean,
Yeah, no, that's correct. It's, yeah. You can have it in a gallery or another place, and it's a musical performance, then it's a musical performance.
Beautiful. Will paying for merchandise such as clothes, vinyls, etc., be an acceptable expenditure? I believe so if you're selling it, because that's a part of your marketing.
if it's promotional merch, that is acceptable. Again, just like with everything in the music business, we try to sell it, which means marketing and promoting it. And you happen to be marketing and promoting it to potential visiting tourists and convention delegates. So yeah, if you have a new record out, a vinyl, or a new t-shirt, take a picture of that just like you would anyway to try to sell it and promote it. And then that's acceptable, but you're gonna have to show us, kind of the back end of how did your marketing go? And again, we will help you with that, but you got to promote it. So that's the only type of, we won't pay for anything else that is personal.
There's a question around having somebody walk through application, a few of those questions, walk through application with people. Our office hours are specifically designed to answer all questions to help you get through your application, but we cannot walk through with you, or at least our staff in the Long Center, from my understanding, cannot help you walk through it. We cannot review any of the materials, but we can answer questions. Erica and Kim, if you'd like to elaborate, please. Please do. Are we able to pay producers outside of Austin for recording music? 51% goes into Austin economy, and that is what it is. I promise there's nothing else around that. No strings or anything. It's what it means. Is there a cost to being on the Visit Austin website? Thank you so much for Peggy from our cultural arts team who sent me a message to say that is free. If you are a grantee or you are an awardee, we will send you a specific link that will help you get your performance posted or your project shared. And please, if you are a grantee, please remember to share it with us. We would love to see and support. Is hiring a PR firm okay to do marketing with the funds? I believe we answered it. I've gone through so many of these, but I think it's okay. What is the approximate timeline after June 18th, specifically when grant awardees may begin, or when activities may begin, or when we find out we're awardees? Can we talk through a timeline of all the things? I think that's good to address here.
So I actually did talk a little bit about this last week with our higher ups in the Long Center. So we anticipate with the grant closing June 18th, it'll take at least a month to get through the evaluations, to triple check them. And so the award notifications will go out with an acceptance date, like in September, that you have to accept or decline by a certain date. But your activities could start June 19th, like the day after the application closed, but those would be reimbursements. So if you've had to pay for anything out of pocket, you can use that first 50% to, pay yourself back and just have those receipts available in case. Kim, anything else to add to that?
I don't have anything to add to it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Erica. Unique question around if for grantees, can they pay themselves for their work? We have an example of them working out of their home or just them dedicating their time. Is there something that can be allocated to paying them for their time on their project or their event?
Yes, you can pay yourself from the grant for your work.
As both a musician and like a producer, because you have line items, like you're producing this event or you're, whatever this is, and you also are a musician in the band. It's just like, we're going to provide all the awardees with a more detailed budget, a working budget that you would typically see in the music industry. And that's okay. I mean, it's the expenses to get it done. And it's okay to pay yourself because you should be getting paid.
Question, just gonna read it. Could you touch on musicians applying for the 15K versus the 30K? Are you eligible for 15K if you apply for the 30K? Okay. And then also, is there anything to consider with these grant sizes in their pools? For instance, 15K, do you have a better chance of getting a grant right?
No, it doesn't indicate your chances of winning a grant, what you choose. Just if you do choose the higher amount, you just make sure you're able to spend it on things that are allowed.
And as far as mixed media, because I want to make sure this is correct, mixed media means dancers, acrobats, digital media, they all can be paid through this grant as it pertains to a project that is around music and promotes tourism and all of those things, all those things. I feel like I've gone through many of them as time has passed. Like I said, please visit us at our website. I promise you, if you just go through eligibility as an applicant and then those eligible expenses, that's usually a good direction, but it will at least help you form your questions. Erica, if it's okay with you, Kim, if it's okay with you, I guess we can take some hands in these last 10 minutes and see how far we get.
Yes.
But I think that's everything.
But I have to go. I got to go pick a kid up from band practice, because thank goodness I've got one musician in the house. So got to go pick him up, but I'm going to leave it up here to Kim and you, Shelby, to answer any remaining questions. I just want to say thank you so much for attending. You can attend our next work session as well as our office hours to keep asking us questions. We will get we'll look through all of these questions too. So thank you, and take it away, you guys. And I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.